Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me on the Tammy Show. Listen, we've been talking about Black history all month, and it's the power of the Black African American man. So I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because what you're going to see next is some amazing men. We'll be right back.
Lift every voice and sing earth, heaven, ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies resound the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. March on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod through the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn has died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place from which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last. White gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk of the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our God, true to our native land, true to our native land.
Hello, wow. I don't know about you, but for me, That's the national Black anthem. And I tell you what, when I talk about amazing men, those men did it. That's commission. And so, as we are coming to the close of the series for the power of the Black African American man, I thought it was just so apropos just to have them come on and finish it out with Lift Every Voice. So, thank you, Commission. All right. What's on my mind? Well, I'm not going to talk about all the things that are going on in the world. I want to get right to it because we have some amazing men that you're going to meet. So the first amazing man is a pastor, and the church where he pastors is Grace Reformed Episcopal Church. It was established over 140 years ago in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Now, he's been there for 5 years, and he has led that church into an adaptive change. He also started Grace Impact Development Center, and he's built a community center, he's established a food pantry, and he's building a cultural festival. And we're getting ready to hear all about that. So come on out, Pastor Tory Liferidge. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good evening, Tammy. And that's a wonderful introduction. I almost didn't realize you're talking about me.
Hey, man, listen. I'm talking about one of these amazing men, and that is you. I am so glad that you were able to join me on the show. Listen, Tory, you have done so much, and I'm used to calling you Pastor T. So you have done a lot. I mean, I am so appreciative that you're on the show tonight. So let's get started. I want you to kind of talk to us about your background, who you are, where you're from, and how you became a pastor.
Well, the short of that, because we do not have enough time. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I was raised here in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and raised as a part of the Reformed Episcopal Church. But I was just like many of our youth, by the time I got old enough, I wanted to explore and go to different churches, not go to church. And in college, I was thankful for the foundation because my faith has always been an important part of my life. However, I was never looking to go into ministry. In fact, after college, I went to Duke University, and after college, I was going to business school at Keenan Flagler at the University of North Carolina. But I was a part of an amazing church, amazing ministry. And my pastor, still my current pastor to this day, the teaching, it exposed me to so much. And I was wrestling with something and didn't know what. Throughout the course of the next few years, it was revealed to me that it was a call to ministry. And so I shifted from business school, pursuing my MBA, and I went to Wesley Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C. to pursue my Master of Divinity. From there, I pastored a church in Baltimore County, and then rejoined my pastor from North Carolina. He had by that time moved to New York on the pastoral staff at First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem, New York. So I did small Caucasian church with about 12 members, and then joined my pastor at African-American church in Harlem, New York, of about 8,000 members. And so great experiences all across the board. And then, God led my wife and I back home to Moncks Corner, South Carolina. And now re-engaging the work of ministry back in my home diocese, and it's part of the Diocese of Southeast in the Reformed Episcopal Church. And I'm with the beautiful people at Grace Reformed Episcopal Church, which has been a match made in heaven.
I remember hearing you pastor years ago at one of the churches where I was playing. And I tell you what, you just inspired me so much. But one of the questions that comes to my mind is about your faith. And you talk about that so strongly. Just talk about the significance of your faith as it relates to your journey. Because a lot of African-American men, for some reason or another, some don't have the strong faith, but they want to do some of the right things. So talk about that.
Well, faith, it is absolutely, and I can only speak for personal experience, it has been critical. I think sometimes because of the way that faith has been expressed in many of our traditional churches, for those of us of a certain age, we have memories, some of them painful memories, Faith has always been connected with this rigid righteousness or religiosity. And for me, that's one of the reasons why my pastor is my pastor. He helped unlock truly a journey, understanding the teachings of Jesus, and the notion that we are on a journey, lifelong journey. If you look at some of the stories in our Bible through that lens, you see people who've been on journeys over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. And so I know we turn a page, but those are people's lives. And my faith for me has always been that thing that I could turn to, that has been my rock, my bedrock. I wasn't always faithful to it, but it has always been a faith bedrock for me. And so when I think about the turns of life, I went through a period where I was recently divorced and still engaging in ministry, hurt, broken, not really understanding it, in a dark space, but still ministering to people and seeking to be faithful to the call of ministry. And it's my faith that really got me through that part and helped me to be strong enough to kind of see myself, see some of the places where I needed to be healed, and to see some of the places where I was in balance, because I really wasn't secure in my identity as a man at that point in life. And so I attribute every place that I stand today to my faith that has guided me through all of those twists and turns in my life.
You know what, Tori, we could talk all night, but I know I got a lot of questions I want to ask you about,
Yes.
because you have done an amazing job. And one of the things that you talk about is this adaptive change in your community. Just as you've been talking about young people going to church, the traditional, we can say it, the traditional hymns, this and that. I mean, I got a daughter, 20 some years old. Nah, that's not me, mama. All day long, that's you. That's not me. So talk about that adaptive change and how your church responded and the community responded to that change. Tell us what it is and how you got them to really respond to that.
Sure. Honestly, I think some of the greatest movements, they happen without necessarily knowing that you're engaging a movement of that size. It was really when I came back home and was united at Grace Reformed Episcopal Church, understanding where the church was, but I was just simply being true to who I was in ministry. I understood the call that I believe God has placed upon me, the passion for engaging young people, and the passion for engaging those who are not connected to a faith community. Because oftentimes, if you look at a lot of our churches, we recycle the same old people, have programs that have the same people going from program to program. And for me, it is following Jesus's footsteps and the work of ministry. And so being true to who I was, making sure the church understood when they called me, they were calling, the ministry that I believe that God has given me. Now, I won't say it has been an easy journey. It has been easier than I've heard stories of most, because there was a genuine connection, and I'm a very transparent person, and we just built fellowship. We built fellowship. And I think when people know that you actually care about them, that you are willing to sacrifice for and with them, and they believe that you're genuine and authentic, then it gives them a chance to connect with your heart, and you can walk together. And they've been walking with me even in places where they couldn't clearly see. But early on, we had some great wins. And so you got some of your staunch traditionalists where at the end of the day, they were happy that their grandchildren were excited about coming to church. And so sometimes that buys you some capital, if we're looking at shifting from only singing the hymns. And don't get me wrong, I love the hymns, I love tradition, but in order to see where the church is going and who we're supposed to be reaching for the future life of the church, we needed those early wins. We needed to see some of the young folks starting to get excited about coming to church, and to help some of our older folks recognize that we weren't trying to kick what they love and appreciate to the curb, but we were trying to find new ways to express it. So it has been a work that has been challenging, but refreshing at the same time. And we've been journeying it together.
Have you been seeing young men more coming out to your church or coming out to your programs and those types of things? And how are you talking to them? What are you saying to them?
Well, and one of the things, Tammy, that I think is so important, I think, and I've seen this, and there's been studies, but you usually attract the age of your pastor is going to be a strong component. And what we've seen is we've seen young men, we've seen married couples, who've moved to the area, who would come and what they appreciate, what more than most would, as they share, is that there's a real pastor. I'm a real guy. I don't like all the stuffy clothes. I don't like all the stuffy titles. And we work. They are drawn to a ministry that seems to be real. And the more that they connect, they find out that it's not a show. It's just who we are. We love hard. In our community, our church community, we love on people like it's nobody's business. And what you see is that, the conversations that I have is just about real life. It's about, seeing you where you are, not judging you where you are, but how do we connect? How do we bond? How do we learn from each other's experiences and then grow together, continue growing together? And then, how do you join us as we put our hands to the plow and engage in the work in the community, engage in mission work, and we have a generation that really wants to feel their faith in action and not just come and hear it rehearsed or performed for them. So I think that has been the thing, the bond that has been uniting a lot of the young men that I've seen and that come and join and became active in our community.
And that's what you're talking about. It's the ministry of life. It's the ministry
Yes.
of real life. So I want to switch because I want you to talk about the Grace Impact Development Center. And the reason I want you to bring that up is because that's a business. Even though you run the church, and I tell people all the time, church really is a business as well. But you started the Grace Impact Development Center. Talk about why you started that and what's happening in the community.
Well, one of the things, this has been our baby. We started in 2017, and is 2018 that we partnered with Habitat for Humanity that was active in our community. And there's always been a communal vision for a community center. And that was one of the things that we had as part of our vision, collective vision as a congregation. And so, it was just a partnership that was a match made in heaven. We got a grant that none of us had any expectation to get. We got knee deep in the work before we even realized what we were on the hook for. And, it was a matching grant. So if we didn't get the match, our church would have been on the hook. And at the end of the day, we ended up having to write a check for $25,000. And I share that because oftentimes our churches, the Black church, is a place where we have collective resources. But, we either hoard it and build building funds and never build any buildings. But we don't necessarily learn how to be good stewards and how to engage and invest and use business principles to be a bigger blessing in the community, have a bigger impact. And so for us, we recognize there used to be a CDC that was the funnel for a lot of resources coming into Berkeley County that hadn't existed in about 10 years. And so for us, I saw the opportunity. How do we make our community work and investing in our community a permanent thing? And how do we create an organization that could be self-sustaining? Right as at the beginning, and even now to the most part, our church is the biggest funder of our nonprofit. However, we've been growing in capacity, and our vision is to get to the point where the nonprofit actually is able to function in and of itself and on its own. And so to me, that's what, a great congregation has the ability to do in our communities and make investment so that you have something that can provide resources, programming for youth, seniors, you name it, we're able to do that. But it all starts with having a vision for and the ability to pull together resources for the greater community.
And one of the things about it is you hear the great part of it. You talk about getting the grants and you talk about working with another organization. But what were some of those challenges that you faced really beginning Grace Impact Development Center?
Oh man, how many times we no? I can tell you some key ones were
Mhm.
if you can't tell, I'm a very energetic. I believe if God gives a vision, I believe in going after it and walking in it in full faith. And so part of it was leading a congregation that had not ever engaged in any type of extension like we were doing in the community. Oftentimes churches will do programs or do something that they could see or going to possibly get a return on. And we were talking about, and over the course of the past couple of years, investing tens of thousands of dollars into our community. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get a new member that comes to the church. Doing it because we feel like this is the vision that God has given us. And so that was a huge challenge initially in terms of teaching and preaching and preparing leaders to help us lead a congregation into doing that work. In addition to that, working in the community, sometimes you can do great work, but not necessarily have great motives and great intention, but it not necessarily be received that way. And so early on, there were a lot of people, who in the community that you're actually trying to invest and impact, who felt maybe I was trying to come in and do too much. I was new. I was considered an outsider in a community that not necessarily the particular community that I'm in, but in the town that I grew up in. I was an outsider because I was coming back in. People didn't know me, the now version of me. I didn't necessarily get with some of the established leaders. And so, having to go through all of that and, hearing a lot of the comments that are made about you, about your attention. I'm trying to build a name for myself and, all of this stuff. If you don't have strong faith, as we talked about earlier, if you don't have, kind of that thick skin, you can get derailed and get involved in things and take things personal that you never should. And then over time, what we've seen is that, a lot of those same early skeptics now are able to see that, we've been consistent with this. And they can trust the work, and they're getting involved and now joining the work that we've been blessed to do in the community. And so those are probably the two biggest challenges, that we face in terms of sharing our mission and our heart and making sure that people got a chance to know us and not just the work we're trying to do in the community.
Yeah. And as you're talking about that, when you talk about coming in, you like a come ya instead of a been ya, because when you was
Yeah.
here, you was a been ya, and for folks that don't know, that's Gullah Geechee for been here and coming here. But what I do want to ask you is, as far as support, because for an African American man, pastor, coming back from New York, what was the support? Who were your mentors? Who did you have to really help you?
That's a great question. And is a place where I struggled initially, right? Because of the type of ministry that I was engaged in with my pastor in New York. It was, very creative, very cutting edge. You're talking about a church that's in Harlem proper, and I mean, engaged in food pantries, that actually has a mental health clinic that offers free and sliding scale mental health in the Black community. That has been my pastor is I learned from him. So he is a huge advocate of investing as a church community into the community that we've been placed to serve. And so, having those types of individuals in those circles was refreshing. And then coming home and starting a work where this type of work in the church in our area, I'm not saying that it's not going on, but in our area, hasn't always been the norm. And there were not a lot of people engaging in that work. And so many of my mentors were some of I'm talking senior wisdom warriors who were active in community engagement, who were not even members of the congregation that I serve, but people who saw what we were doing and remember when others were trying to do things and didn't get the support, and they saw, how it didn't work out for some of them. There were people in the community who would just call me, or they would see me and just pull me to the side and say, "Hey, son, I am so proud. Keep going. Don't worry." And then you would get a chance to meet people who had experiences to share. And so early on, I took much of my mentorship from some of that great civil rights generation that still has the wisdom, but have gotten a little older. And then I also reach out to places and people that I see. I'm not scared to call on individuals who are engaged in work that inspires me, and see if I can get time on their calendar just to meet, just to talk, just to pick their brain. And so I think sometimes as Black men, we have to be willing to drop our ego and put forth the effort, because I found so many people who've been so willing to pour out, to share, to have lunch, to hear what you're doing, to share their experiences, and, to offer you some advice and critique. And we got to be open to that, because that's how irons do, in fact, sharpen irons.
That's right. You know what, Tori, we can talk all night long. But and what you're saying, so you're gonna have to come back. What you're gonna come back
Yes.
later on. But I want to ask you about. Let's talk about your cultural festival, because that's important. That's coming up.
Yes.
And what can people do to get involved with the cultural festival? We're running out of time, but
All right.
I want you to talk about it.
Sure. And thank you for this opportunity, because with all of that we've been talking about with the church, with the community, everything that we do, we need resources. And here, one of the things that we have a vision to do is to celebrate the Juneteenth holiday. And so this year we are hosting the Root of Soul J19 Fest, and that's June 18th and 19th at the Exchange Park in Latson, South Carolina. You can get information at rootofsoulfestival.com. You can find us online at J19 Fest. On Facebook, J19 Fest, and Instagram. But this festival is going to be a cultural festival celebrating the holiday, but also against the backdrop of Charleston, South Carolina. The port of entry for the majority of enslaved people brought into this country came through Charleston. And so what better place to highlight African-American history and culture? There will be an HBCU college fair. There will be educational exhibits. And we're most excited because we have a lot of local artists that will be participating, as well as national artists. On that Friday night, we are going to have the greatest outdoor party ever with DJ S&S of New York City and DJ Kid Capri will be here on that Friday night. And on that Saturday, we're going to have gospel recording artists, Jonathan McReynolds, Kalante Gavin. We have R&B artist Kiki Wyatt, and also our own Charleston's own Ranky Tanky, Grammy Award-winning Ranky Tanky. So we're going to have an awesome time creating an outdoor festival that will be an annual festival and is hosted by our nonprofit. And why that is important really quickly is because it allows us to create an economic engine so that resources can come back into our African-American communities and do a lot of the work that we need. There's a slim percentage of African-American led nonprofits that actually are able to access many of the grants that are around. And so we need to create our own avenues of pouring resources back into our communities. And this festival is going to be one of those economic engines. And we're excited about it. So please, tickets are already on sale. Go to Eventbrite, go to the website, and join us for the Root of Soul J19 Fest, June 18th and 19th this year.
That's right. And I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to it. I tell you, I'm excited about it. So Tori, before we close, there are two questions that I have to ask you. One, you got 30 seconds to answer this one. What thoughts would you like to leave our audience with, and especially our young Black men?
The only thing I would say is do not be afraid to pursue your dream, pursue the vision, that thing in your heart and your soul that you never can shake. Don't be afraid to pursue it, but don't be afraid to work for it. Don't be afraid to sacrifice and do whatever it takes, and find mentors, find people who are doing what you envision and cold call them. And if you don't get one, call 10 more. That is what I would share, especially with our young African-American men. Go after the visions that you see because our communities need it.
That's right. And Tori, the last thing I always ask my guests, what are 3 words that describe Tori?
Fun, radical, and an introvert.
Wow. Introvert. Come on, really?
I really am.
Oh, well, listen.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to put both of them down there. Fun, radical, extrovert, introvert. And so I want to thank you so much, Tori, for being on the show. I mean, I'm looking forward to J19, Root of Soul, looking forward to that, looking forward to hearing all the great things that Grace Impact Development Center are doing and what you and your wife are doing. And tell her I said hello, please.
I sure will. I love you, baby. I think she's watching now.
We love you, and thank you so much for being on the show.
It's such a pleasure. Blessings.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Listen, hang tight because I want you to see something right after this. Listen, folks, I told you another amazing man. Now, listen, we got another one coming on. And after the break, we'll be right back.
Our roots are strong, our culture rich, our presence powerful. Our vibrant, colorful swag can be seen in everything we touch. Let's celebrate us and everything we are. The blueprint of food, music, and soul. For an immersive weekend of African American culture, dynamic musical acts, delicious food, cultural vendors, and more. Join us in Charleston for the Root of Soul J19 Fest. Low country roots, African heritage, Black soul.
Oh, yes. Well, listen, Tori, that was just for you. We're going to be right back.
The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com.
I don't know about you, but I am excited. This has been a great Black History Month celebration with the power of the African American man, the Black African American man. So, you ready? We've got another amazing man. And I've talked to him before, but guess what? I said, you gotta come back. Okay, so you're gonna meet him. He's an engineer. Now, listen now. He's an engineer. He is the founder of Palmetto Hope Network. That is a nonprofit organization that works to provide hope to communities, and victims of violent crimes. He's also the founder of Real Mad. That is REALMAD, which stands for Real Men Against Domestic Violence and Abuse. And their primary focus is to mentor and educate men and children about domestic violence. I tell you what, I'm going to bring him out because he's the author of a book. It's called A Man Like Me. And we're going to have him come out right now. Come on out, Mr. Marvis Butch Kennedy. You're on mute. Yes. We have to
Okay,
now.
is she okay? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. How you doing, Tammy?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. How are you?
It's great. I'm doing great. I've been watching your segments, man. I'm so proud. I'm so honored to be amongst the men that you chose for this month. I mean, they're great men. I listen to Mr. Moody, and I listen to Path to Redemption, and these gentlemen, man. I mean, what an amazing segment. I'm just so proud and happy to be part of that segment. So thank you very much.
Well, listen, Butch, I couldn't have it any other way. I wanted you to come on because, we've known each other for many, many years. And hey, Lisa, want to tell her hi back there. And hey, and you have just been just an example of what needs to happen in our community. So let's get right to it. I want to talk to you about your journey as a man because your book talks about becoming this man, a man like me. And I mean, when I talk about you shared so many nuggets, but you were also so transparent. Talk about that first time when you realized how you had to act as a real man, what that was like.
It's really weird because, and I tell a lot of people this a lot of time, I never really knew what I didn't know until I actually learned it from my father. He taught me as a young boy that if I didn't behave properly, then he would teach me how to become a man. And a lot of times he taught me with a belt. And a lot of people take that in a wrong perspective. But, my father was built and he learned that on the adage that, real men, did certain things. We never cried, we never showed emotion. We were strong, we were tough, we were brave. But the problem I had with being tough, tougher than who? The problem with that is you got to go out and prove it each and every day. And that's kind of tiring for men to have to go out and prove that I'm tougher than you, or I'm tougher than him, or I'm braver than him. The sole thing about being a man that I learned about being a man, it all came from my fathers, my uncles. They taught me so many different things. And I always say that, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly is what they taught me. And that's what I became. So being the man that I am, it's just a journey that I travel, that all men travel. A lot of men travel this journey, and a lot of men that have read the book thus far have said, you know, they can relate to a lot of what I was saying because it all happened to them. And to me, it speaks volumes of men that can come out and have these discussions, these open discussions about, you know, their emotions. And the troublesome thing about that is we are a society to where men are not supposed to show those emotions. We're supposed to bottle those things up. And I learned at a very young age that, you know, I couldn't do that. So, you know, I spent my entire life trying to be something that I really wasn't. I wore a mask. I tried to pretend to be something that I wasn't. And when I really learned that as an adult, brought everything into perspective, you know, put everything into perspective as to why, you know, I did some of the things I did and why my father treated me the way that he did. And he treated me differently than everybody else in the family. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you know, as you're talking about a journey. So my question is, what was that pivotal moment when you decided, hey, this is not how I'm supposed to be? What was that for you?
It's strange because the pivotal moment that I thought about it is I started, you know, I actually was out speaking at an event, and a young lady came up to me and she said, you know, you were very good with what you were saying, but, you know, if you want to deal with crime in our community, you need to deal with domestic violence. And I never knew what that meant. I never, and it's sad to say that I was so naive that I never knew what it meant. So I started going to the meetings that they had, and I learned of this lady by the name of Carolyn Thomas, and she had her whole face shot off by a man that supposedly loved her. And I'm like, well, you know, how can we as men do that to somebody that we supposedly love? And so I started digging and trying to figure out what it is about men, what it is about us as men that leads to violence. I mean, we're taught at a young age, you know, never to show emotion, don't be tough. We got to be tough. We got to be macho. We teach our kids that if they're being bullied in school, that they need to hit somebody back. If somebody hits you, you hit them back. That's what we teach our kids. And if you don't hit them back and you come home crying about it, then I'm gonna hit you. So I learned at a young age that we're not essentially protecting our children. What we're doing is we're teaching our children how to fend for themselves. And as a parent, I think it's our responsibility to teach our kids more. I mean, we don't know if our kids can fight. We don't know. I mean, we just know that our kids are scared and our kids need our guidance. And as a parent, that's our job, is to protect our children. And I feel if you're telling your kid to go out there and do that, you're not really helping them, really.
Yeah. And you know what, Butch, as you're talking, you just froze up on us, but you're back with us, because I had the question down there asking you what was missing with our young men today. And I know that's a complex question.
No, I mean, what's missing with our young people is the easy question: the man, the father, the father. We need more mentors out there. We need kids. Kids are starving to have a man come up to you and have conversations with them about what it means to be a man. And a lot of these kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. But if they don't learn from real men or from men what it means to be a man, then they're going to go out in the streets and find it another way. And, you know, the streets have taken too many of our kids for us to continue to allow this to happen. So that's what we do. We actually sit down, we have conversations with young boys and young men, and we teach them these things. And when they read about the stories that I wrote and what I say in the book, it holds water with them, you know, because they've been through it, even at a young age. I mean, at 7 years old, you know, I was taught certain things that, you know, certain ways that I was supposed to behave, certain ways that were manly ways to behave. So that's what I did. I behaved the way that a man is supposed to behave. And as I look back at the book and I wrote the book, there's a lot of parts of the book that I'm not really proud of, but, you know, that's the way I was raised. And that's basically the gist of it. And a lot of men are raised the same way. So we're raised and taught to be violent. We live in a violent culture. I mean, we teach boys to respect one another, or if you're being disrespected, then you need to duke it out. I mean, it's a violent culture, and that's what we teach our boys. And so our boys are going out there trying to prove that they're men all day long, all the time, and the proof of the man is sexually, or it's either physically. And
That's
those
right.
those things of power and control that these men, that we as men must have. We must be in control of everything. Okay, we can't fear anything. No fear,
Mm-hmm.
control of
Mm-hmm.
everything, all the power, no emotion. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. That's a
It
recipe
surely
for
is.
disaster. And the sad reality is when I talk to young men about this and have these conversations with them, and they realize now that hey, wait a minute, what am I doing? We're teaching our young boys about young girls. How are we teaching our young boys that they should be respectful to young girls, right? We're not teaching them any of that. We're not showing them any emotion. We're not showing them any love. And the question that I ask the boys, and I even ask this to the young ladies, how do you know that a boy loves you? Because a lot of people believe that love is the greatest emotion of all. I mean, how if I can't show you any emotion, if I can't show you any feelings whatsoever, love is a feeling. If I can't show you that, how do you know that I love you? And it's funny, some of the answers that we get from our kids. I mean, a lot of people, they don't, especially our children, they don't really understand, what love is. I mean, you buy me something nice, that means you love me, right? And for boys, you sleep with me, that means you love me, and that's not necessarily true. So we have these deep conversations, and
Yeah.
a lot of these young boys are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and a lot of them nowadays are actually a lot more active than we give them credit for
Mm-hmm.
as well.
That's right. One of the things you talk about, and you talk about this about how your father raised you, and of
Hmm.
course we talked about the pivotal moment. But I want to ask you, do you have any regrets about anything that you would share with a young person, a lesson that they could learn?
Well, the biggest thing to me, for me personally, the regrets I have none. I'm the person I am today because of what happened to me as a kid. My father made sure that he actually, if I wasn't in line, he made sure that he kept me in line. And I often say, a lot of people who read my book, they say, "Man, your father was really tough," or they hate my father or whatever. But I'd be like, you can't hate him, because if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be me. If he treated me like he treated my brother, then I'd be like my brother. If he treated me like he treated my sister, I'd be like my sister. But I'm me. I'm an individual. I'm different than them all. And that's the big thing. That's the big point. The big sticking point. But what really tied me the most, what really got me the most, was when I was on TV on CNN once, and I left CNN. I left the station, and I was driving home, and I got a text message, and the text message was from my father, and the text message simply said, "I'm proud of you, son, and I love you." And I'll never forget it. I was driving on I-26 going home. He said, "I love you, son." And I remember I pulled over on the side of the road and I cried, because that 7-year-old boy wanted to hear them words. That 12-year-old boy wanted to hear them words. That 18-year-old boy wanted to hear them words, right? But now, my father opened up enough to give me those words, and it was like a weight that was lifted up off my shoulders. Writing this book was a labor of love, because I had built so many walls up in my life to protect myself, right? And in order to write the book, I had to tear some of the walls down, bring some of the walls down, and I had to expose myself, and I had to look in that mirror. I had to look in that mirror and realize who I was. And then I had to be truthful and honest to who I was. So I had to own my mess. I had to sit in my mess and own it. And to be a man, we're held accountable. And that's the thing about being a real man. And everybody has problems with the term real. And real is an acronym. And the R is for resilient, because a real man is going to fall down many times, but he's going to get back up again, right? And the E is for empathy. And a lot of people don't understand what that is, but that's a very important trait. And in order to do what we do, you have to be empathetic to other people's issues. And the A is for accepting. We have to accept responsibility for everything it is that we have done, everything that is that we are. We have to be held accountable for everything that we do. The L stands for leaders, right? Yep, that's what the R stands for, leaders. And that's what we are. We are men, we are leaders. And that's what we do in our community. We lead in our community. When I was in the military, our motto was lead, follow, or get out of the way. And that's
Wow.
exactly what I decided to do. Lead, follow, or get
Leave,
out of the
follow,
way.
and get out the way. Says either
Exactly.
it's, but that saying used to be, it's either my way or trailway. And for those that don't know, trailway was the bus, but it's lead or get out of the way. That's right, because you served our country, and thank you so much, sir, for your service, Butch.
Yes, ma'am. And the thing about being a military guy that makes me so proud of this country, and it's kind of hard, because because I look at things a little differently now. There's a different perspective now because of what's been going on in our community as far as how people of color, especially Black men, have been treated here recently. So it's a kind of a hate, love-hate type situation because, you know, I love the country because I serve the country, but the country doesn't love me back, right? So I had to be honest with myself. I had to sit down and say, well, wait a minute. I mean, I serve this country. And then I can sit up here and watch a man with a knee on a man that looks like me with a knee on the back of his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. What did I serve for this? Right? Did I serve for this? Did I serve for Ahmaud Arbery to be shot just for jogging in his own neighborhood? You know what I mean? There's certain things, and even in my neighborhood, Lisa and I were hanging up Christmas decorations, and out comes the law enforcement, and they're asking 50 million questions. And thankfully that she was there. You know, things could have been a little bit worse. But, you know, I live in a country today where, you know, that I serve to protect, and I would do anything to protect it. But who's going to protect me? And that's who's going to protect me? Who's going to protect people that look like me? And nowadays in the state of South Carolina, man, we're having conversations about people carrying their weapons open with open carry.
Yeah.
So that's huge for people like me because I'm also a gun owner, right? And I also have a CWP. But if I open carry, I look like the person that they're afraid of, right? So how are they going to know that I'm a good guy with a gun? How are they going to know that? Right? So now I just call that open season on me or people that look like me. Because, you know, to be honest with you, how do they know? They won't know.
Right.
They don't know.
They won't know.
They're afraid of people that look like me anyway.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Anybody that looks like me, I mean, look at women as well. You know, same thing. But for you as a man, it's even harder because that comes from, we can go way back to Bill's conversation in the beginning of this series when he talked about the Black man and how, you know, people wanted to keep the enslaved Black African down because they were afraid. They were afraid of these big, you know, men, period. So go ahead.
I always say, Tammy, that the only person in this country that's more marginalized than the Black man is the Black woman. And the thing that's so powerful about what you're doing now is giving Black men a platform, right? So that we can speak out. And Black men appreciate the heck out of what it is that Black women have done for us from day one. The problem is we as Black men have been absent for so long, but we're coming back. You know what I mean? We need to be here. We need to show up, especially for our Black women. They've supported us for so long. And I'm so passionate about, you know, the love and the attention that I've received from Black women. And it's amazing. I mean, having a platform like you and to share this platform with many men like me that look like me is amazing. And I thank you for that.
Listen,
I thank you for that.
I thank you. I thank you, and I thank all the amazing men that I've had on the show because thank you, Michelle. It has been powerful. I don't know what it was, but it was just something in me that said that I needed to do this series of powerful Black men because I had a powerful Black man that I grew up with, my father. And it was only just something that I said, we need to see this. We need to see African American men who are doing things, who are making a difference. Now, I want to talk to you quickly about your Real Mad. Talk about that, your organization.
Well, Real Mad is Real Men Against Domestic Violence. And I'm fortunate enough to go all over the state, talk to men about ending violence against women. That's been my platform for a while. And it's been an engaging conversation with men. We talk about everything. I just spent last month with Father to Father here in Charleston, and we had some very interesting conversations with men, you know, about everything from child support, right, to how we treat our women, how we need to respect our women. The sad reality is that, you know, we as men have suffered as well. But so what I've learned so very well is in watching women being empowered is that men, you know, like to be empowered as well. And a lot of people say, well, men have been empowered all the time, but the Black man has not. And that's where the rubber hits the road with me. I mean, as a Black man, you know, to see other Black men doing positive, good things in our community, I think that is powerful. And to see the Mr. Moody's and to see the Path to Redemption gentlemen and all these fine gentlemen that you had here and to be sitting at a table next to these gentlemen is just amazing. It's awesome, because a lot of people don't realize that people that look like us are targets. People, and it's sad. I mean, we are targets. And when I have that conversation with people, because I'm an engineer, just like you said, and the people that I work with don't look like me, Tammy. I'm the only one. I'm one of the only ones that look like me, right?
I know that's right.
So they don't understand. They don't understand anything about me or my journey. But when I try to explain it to them, I would think that they would, be a little more open to that conversation. But it appears to me like they are already set in their ways as to how they view me and how they view people that look like me. So it's a very, very fine line that I lead in doing what I do. So as a man, having conversations with other men of other races, is very, very powerful to me, because I get to see what they don't say, to everybody else. I get to hear that, and it's just it floors me that some of the beliefs and some of the ways that some of the things that they say so that floors me.
Yeah, yeah. So Butch, let's talk about what's next for Butch.
Right.
What's next? You writing another book?
Well, I tell everybody that the book that I wrote was kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? There's a lot of things that was in the book that's not really in the book, right? There's a lot of things that I said that I really didn't say. So there might be a possibility of another book. The book is really, really done well. It's elicited a conversation, right? And the ultimate goal of the conversation is for us as men to come together and redefine this thing that we call manhood, right? And it's a definition that's more respectful towards one another, right? And that allows men to be more empathetic towards one another and be more emotional and not being judgmental towards one another. So the thing that's powerful about that, and I say this to a lot of people that I talk to, is that things changed last year when Kobe Bryant died in the helicopter crash. For the first time in a long time, you see men openly weep on television. And to me, that was just the most powerful moment that I've ever witnessed. To see men that were so comfortable in themselves that they were able to show how much that they cared and loved another human being. And to me, that's huge, because men are supposed to be emotionless characters. We're not supposed to have any emotions. We're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be able to brave that out. You know what I mean? But Kobe meant a lot to a lot of people. And they showed that, man. And I think that was a powerful moment for us, for our country, powerful moment for Black folks, for Black people, because we got to see other Black men that were emotionally hurt. Show it.
That's right. That's right. Butch, I tell you what, as I always tell you, it's just so great to be able to talk with you. And all the men that I've had on, I mean, I'm just floored. I mean, I want to have y'all come back on again and again and again, because what you're sharing is so important for our community and for our young Black men. So that segues into the question that I want to ask you. Talk about the takeaway from this interview and what you'd like to say to a young Black man that's watching, now.
For me, for any young man, it's always never, ever, ever give up. The resiliency is important. And our people, Black people in general, we have always been resilient. We've always fallen down and gotten back up. I mean, even from slavery days to today, resiliency is a key. And never, ever, ever give up. And remember, man, you're much better than people ever give you credit for. Stand strong, stand tall, work hard, man. I learned so much through failure. Failure was my biggest teacher. And if you fail, don't just get back up again. There's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. And remember that, man. And I get a lot of credit for a lot of things, but to be honest with you, I am nothing without God's grace and his mercy. And that's what this whole thing has been about, this whole segments. All of us men have come back and we told you the same thing. God plays a very pivotal role in our lives, in each and every one of our lives. Me personally,
Yes.
I am not that smart. I am not that smart. Now, I've always said, if you want to see God laugh, just tell him your dreams. Just tell him your dreams and he'll laugh. Because everything that I thought would happen the way that it happened was magnified by 10 because God put his hand on it. And Lisa will tell you all the time, man, when we go out and we're helping victims and we're giving them stuff, I'm telling her, I said, Lisa, just give it to them. Just give it to them. And God will give it back to us, and He'll bless us again and again and again. He's amazing, man. And the thing about all of these men, they've all said the same thing, man. It's okay. It's okay to pray. It's okay to pray, but it's also okay to cry. That's what I would tell the men. That's what I would tell these young boys, and I tell them that all the time in our summer camps, and I tell them that all the time in any events that we have. So yeah, I'm proud of our young men, man.
I am.
I'm really proud.
I am too. I'm proud of you, man. I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. So, I always ask, what are those 3 words that describe Butch?
Resiliency has to be one of them, right? Resiliency has to be one of them, man. I mean, because Butch has failed so many times. And a lot of people say, well, you succeed. But I'm consistent, right? Consistent and resilient. Those are two things that define me. I'm always consistent. I'm always going to do what I do, but I'm also going to be empathetic. And that's a trait that's in the word real mad. And empathy means everything. I can't give what I give without having some sort of feeling towards the victim. A lot of people don't realize what victimization is. And when you're in a position where someone has been victimized and you're giving them stuff, then it kind of, there's the reward, you reap the benefits of all the rewards, but the reward is monumental. And so that's it. That's empathetic, right?
Right. So your 3 words are
so
resilient.
Those are the 3.
Yeah, you're resilient,
Yep.
consistent, and empathetic. Yep. Hey, Butch, listen, I could talk to you all night. You and Lisa, I love you all so much. And I want to thank you for being on the show, for always, and see, you closing it out. That's the way I planned it. You close it out.
What a phenomenal thing that you did, man. You just need to pat yourself on the back. I'm doing this all day long. This to me, to see Black men, and to see the way that Black women just bring us in and just love us the way that they do is powerful. It's powerful. And to me, yes, and Lisa's the same way. I'm just the luckiest man in the world to have found the most amazing woman in the world, and I love her with everything that I am, and I love you with everything that I am too, for just being the person that you are. So spread the love, and what a beautiful segment. What a beautiful February, man. It just doesn't last long enough. What's up with that? Can we take March too? Can we take February and March?
Yeah, well, March is for the women, so come on back in and check out the women.
I'm always down with the women. You know that, right? I'm always down for empowering women. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah, listen, I want to thank you again, my brother. You continue to be blessed, and I pray that God will continue just to bless you and Lisa, your family. And hey, keep up the good work. You coming back because October, you already know, right?
Domestic Violence Month.
All right, you and Lisa coming back, okay? So people can get in touch with you at butchkennedy1060@gmail. We want to show your book right quick because it is a father like me. And if we can bring the book up so people can at least see the cover of the book. All right. There it is. Behind me too. Yeah, listen, it was right behind you the whole time. Hey, Butch, thank you again. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. All right, listen, take care of yourself. Love you much. All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, wow. I don't know about you, but I'm in tears because, wow. Thank you, Butch. Thank you, Pastor T. What a great show. I want to thank producer A. She's back with us, y'all. Producer A, and then assistant producer. We got a new producer, Miss Tiana Springs. All right. Claflin University in the house, okay? So next week, folks, the show is in March. It's about the power of the woman, and that's in celebration of Women's History Month. 2 powerful women coming on. Rochelle Porter, founder, CEO, and designer. And you're going to meet also another powerful woman, Mignon Clyburn, former FCC commissioner and the first woman to chair the FCC commission. So thank you so much, folks, for joining us. I tell you what, this has been a wonderful month. Happy Black History Month, and we should celebrate it 365 days of the year. Remember, please be a blessing to somebody today and every day. Have a safe and wonderful week. Wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands. And again, Thank you for joining me. Remember, YouTube, Tammy TV Show, YouTube, subscribe. Until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.